Afternoon. We start with baseball. The Kansas City Royals sweep. The Kansas City Royals do not get the sweep as the Nationals won the game to avoid the sweep. The Royals have had two big shots by Vinny Pasquantino. Two 3-run homers. Last night, his difference in the game was his 3-run homer that made it 8-5. Luke Ursay was hot. Lucas Ursay was rocks last night in being the closer. Estes hasn't been very good since the All-Star break, but is still first in saves. The Royals lose today, 8-7. Seth Logan had a really bad game as he gave it 5. The Royals. In the first, the Royals scored 2. The Royals would get another in the second. In the third, the Nationals respond. Another run. It would be Vinny Pasquantino who hit a home run to make it 7-6, as we said. Game got tied at 7, but Carlos Estevez gave up another save. We have discussion on. I still think Luke Ursay. I think Luke Ursay should be getting back the closer role soon if it doesn't turn around for Carlos Estevez. That's CM on Smack. Royals fall back Friday night. Royals play the White Sox, second worst team in baseball. Royals to host. Royals need a sweep preferably, as their 8% chances are dwindling by day. The Cardinals lost a game to which they shouldn't have, to the Rockies 3-0, and they lose a disappointing series. The Cubs get rocked by the Blue Jays. One of the big blows in the game was a 3-run shot after it was 1-0, made it 4-0, and the Jays would win 5-1 after putting a hit at 3-run, after getting 2 more runs. Game 2 is tonight. The Cubs will have Kevin Guzman will go for the Jays. They both have ERAs in a 4.54. They're 3.90, but Horton is having a hell of a year. He'll start for the Cubs. The Cubs will need to salvage at least 1, maybe 2. And that's baseball. We'll preview all the games tomorrow and Friday. That's Sam on Sports. Thank you and good afternoon. This is Sam Bond for Sam Sports Report. There's bipolar and split personality disorder. Split personality and bipolar are two different mental health conditions. They don't directly connect, but a lot of people can have them if they have that. The confusion mostly comes from the terms are used everyday language versus psychiatry. Split personality disorder is a clinical term for DID. DID is when a person distinctly identifies as a personality or state, each within the pattern of thinking. It's strongly linked to pushing both mechanisms and events. Minds to split overwhelming disorder events. The shift about identifying more gaps in the bipolar disorder mood disorder involving mania, hypomania, evaluated energy, impulsivity, less speed, less need for depression. The moderate mood cycles can last 4 days. Bipolar is caused by mixed biology and environments and factors with mood stabilizers therapy. That changes are about energy. They're impossible. Why the confusion? People sometimes split personality when they made things, but bipolar things aren't becoming a different person. Identity, people connect with themselves. Distinct trauma can be a risk for both, but DID requires extreme repeated trauma of childhood, whereas bipolar, a person can have both conditions at the same time, but it's rare. Did it make Did Camille make it bipolar because they were involved in media changes? I thought it was more popular than that. Here was my definition of why they could mix together. Here's how I can explain it. How it works. Best ability: when you have bipolar, things tend to fluctuate, and maybe you feel worse. Well, within Spil Personallity, it's kind of the same. You have two different acts or two different personalities. Your personality can change. So that's the mix of bipolar, and you can see the combo, and I think it happens more than they say it does. That's according to ChatGPT. This is Sam Vaughn for Sam's Sports Report.
Hi, I'm Dr. Tracy Marks, a psychiatrist, and I make mental health education videos. Can you have bipolar disorder and borderline personality disorder at the same time? I've been asked this question several times, and the answer is yes. In fact, some people will refer to this as border polar. And this isn't an official term, but it's one coined by professionals in the field, psychiatrists and therapists. It's kind of like an inside term used by people who keep up with the research on this issue. So now you have some inside lingo. I've explained in a previous video the difference between borderline personality disorder, which I'll call BPD, and bipolar disorder, and you can watch this video for a longer explanation. In that video, I considered borderline personality disorder as your hardwiring, similar to the climate of the area where you live. I compared bipolar disorder to a storm that comes in and lasts for a period of time and then goes away. The climate, or your hardwiring, affects the kinds of storms that you have. One of the key places that BPD and bipolar disorder overlap is in the mood instability. With BPD, you get rapidly shifting mood states that last hours or a day, whereas episodes of mania or depression last for a minimum of 4 days for hypomania and 2 weeks for depression. Some experts have debated whether or not BPD should really be part of the bipolar spectrum. I talk about bipolar spectrum in this video. But the latest reviews on this issue have concluded that they're very distinct entities. But what the latest research has shown is that 20% of people have both disorders. So 20% of people with bipolar disorder also have BPD, and 20% of people with BPD also have bipolar disorder. Now, in medicine, 20% is still a low frequency. It's less than half. But even so, people who have both of these things going on at the same time tend to have more severe illness. They tend to have more mood episodes, which means less time feeling stable despite being on a good medication regimen. They have an earlier age of onset of bipolar disorder, more suicidality, either in attempts or thoughts, more aggression and hostility, more substance misuse, more comorbid diagnoses. This means co-occurring illnesses like PTSD and OCD. People with both disorders tend to have more unemployment and hospitalizations. So what does it look like if you have both? You have your episodes of depression and mania that can come and go, but then you can still have this level of distress, sadness, or dissatisfaction with life that doesn't seem to change even when your depression or mania have passed. In fact, it may be hard to tell if your depression or mania have passed if you're still feeling emotionally unstable. That can lead to over-medication. Another thing you have to remember is that with BPD, you get the fears of being rejected or abandoned by people that you care about. And this wreaks havoc on your relationships as you test people or sabotage the relationship to keep them from leaving you. And this is behavior that you can have even when you're not in a depression or mania. Then add in the impulsivity and poor judgment of hypomania that can cause you to make really bad decisions, even worse than you would have made if you had pure mania without the personality issues. The feelings of emptiness really ramp up if you crash into a depression, and this is one of the reasons why there tends to be more suicidality with border polar than with either BPD or bipolar alone. Using self-harm as a coping mechanism is not really a feature of bipolar disorder,